The following story is based on real events and ongoing investigations. Some details may be disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised. Names and certain details have been verified through official records and witness testimony. Two electricians climb a hill to repair a television antenna on a quiet August afternoon. They discover something that will haunt investigators for decades. Two men lying side by side on Vintém Hill, perfectly positioned, wearing crude lead masks over their eyes. Both are smiling. There are no signs of struggle, no obvious cause of death. Just two bodies, masks, and a mystery that defies every logical explanation. Welcome back to Vanished Files, Cold Cases Decoded. I'm your host, and this is episode 01, The Lead Masks Case, Rio de Janeiro, 1966. The city pulses with optimism, Brazil's economy is growing, and the future feels bright. Across Guanabara Bay, in the quieter city of Niterói, two men are planning what they believe will be an important business trip. Manuel Pereira de Cruz, 32 years old, works as an electronics technician. His hands are skilled with circuits and wiring, the kind of steady hands that can repair a television or build a radio from spare parts. His friends describe him as methodical, serious about his work. Miguel José Viana is 34, also an electronics expert. Both men have families. Both are known in their neighborhood as reliable, hard-working individuals who keep to themselves. On the morning of August 17th, the two men tell their families they're traveling to São Paulo on business, something about purchasing electronic equipment and car parts. Miguel's wife watches him pack a small suitcase. He seems excited, perhaps nervous. "We'll be back in a few days," he tells her, kissing her goodbye. They board a bus to Niterói, but they never make it to São Paulo. Instead, they purchase raincoats, strange considering the forecast shows clear skies. They buy a bottle of water from a local vendor. Then, they disappear into the afternoon heat, walking toward Vintém Hill, carrying their small suitcase and wearing their identical raincoats. Neither man has any known interest in hiking. Neither has any apparent reason to climb that particular hill. But something draws them up that dusty path toward an appointment with death that makes no sense. August 20th, 1966, 3 days after Manuel and Miguel vanished. Two electricians, Jorge da Costa Alves and Roberto Ferreira, climb Vintém Hill to repair a television antenna. The morning is clear, the kind of bright Saturday that makes outdoor work almost pleasant. As they reach the hill's plateau, something catches Jorge's eye. At first glance, it looks like two men taking a nap in an unusual spot. A small clearing, about 600 feet up the hillside. But as Jorge moves closer, his stomach drops. Two bodies lie perfectly parallel to each other, positioned with mathematical precision. Both men wear dark suits, white shirts, and ties. Both have raincoats draped neatly beside them. And both wear identical masks made of lead, covering their eyes like crude welding goggles. Roberto runs down the hill to call police, while Jorge remains with the bodies, though he keeps his distance. The scene is too neat, too arranged. There's no blood, no obvious wounds, no signs of a struggle. The men's clothing is undisturbed, their positions so exact they might have been placed by an undertaker. When police arrive 2 hours later, they find additional details that deepen the mystery. Next to the bodies lies an empty bottle of water, the same bottle witnesses saw the men purchase 3 days earlier. There's also a packet containing 2 towels and a notebook with a single page of writing. The note is written in Miguel's handwriting, but its meaning remains opaque. Ingest capsules. What capsules? Protect metals. Protect them from what? Wait for mask signal. A signal from whom? Detective Inspector Silvio Correa examines the lead masks more closely. They're handmade, crafted with the precision of someone familiar with metalwork. Each mask has small eye holes, but the lead is thick enough to shield the wearer's eyes from bright light or radiation. The masks fit perfectly, suggesting they were made specifically for these two men. The autopsies begin immediately, but they raise more questions than answers. Dr. Hermes Freitas, the forensic pathologist, finds no obvious cause of death, no stab wounds, no bullet holes, no blunt force trauma. Both men appear to have died peacefully. hence the slight smile still visible on their faces. However, the investigation hits its first major obstacle almost immediately. Due to a backlog at the forensic laboratory, toxicology tests are delayed. By the time the samples can be processed, decomposition has made reliable testing impossible. If Manuel and Miguel were poisoned, that evidence is now lost forever. Detective Correa interviews the men's families and discovers troubling inconsistencies. Both men had been secretive in the weeks leading up to their deaths. Miguel had purchased materials that could be used to make lead masks, unusual for an electronics technician. Manuel had been reading books about UFOs and space travel, topics that had never interested him before. The investigation reveals that the men had been carrying significantly more money than their families expected, several thousand cruzeros, far more than needed for their supposed business trip to São Paulo. Where did this money come from, and why did they never use it? Witness statements create a timeline, but it's frustratingly incomplete. The bus driver remembers the two men seeming nervous during the ride to Niterói. A vendor recalls selling them water and being struck by how formal they seemed, overdressed for a casual day trip. But after 2:30 p.m. on August 17th, no one reports seeing them alive. Police search the hillside for additional evidence. They find traces of recent campfires, suggesting others had been on the hill recently. But nothing connects these fires to the two deaths. They interview local residents about unusual activity, strange lights, unfamiliar vehicles, anything out of the ordinary. Several people report seeing bright lights in the sky around the time of the men's disappearance, but witness accounts vary wildly in details. The investigation stalls. Without a clear cause of death, without reliable toxicology results, and without witnesses to the actual event, police have evidence, but no coherent theory. The case file grows thick with reports and interviews, but every lead dissolves under scrutiny. The most sensational theory suggests Manuel and Miguel believed they were making contact with extraterrestrial beings. The lead masks could have been protection against alien technology or bright lights from spacecraft. The cryptic note about mask signal might refer to a pre-arranged communication with UFO occupants. Evidence supporting this theory includes the men's recent interest in UFO literature and the multiple reports of strange lights over Vintém Hill. The precise positioning of the bodies and their peaceful expressions might indicate they died during what they believed was a spiritual or otherworldly encounter. However, this theory requires believing in extraterrestrial visitation, for which no physical evidence exists. The strange lights could easily be conventional aircraft or natural phenomena misidentified by excited witnesses. A more grounded theory suggests the men were participating in a drug experiment, possibly involving hallucinogens. The capsules mentioned in the note could be experimental drugs, and the lead masks might have been intended to create sensory deprivation or protect against bright lights during a drug-induced experience. This theory explains their secretive behavior, the extra money they carried, and their apparent calm at the time of death. If they overdosed on experimental drugs, it would account for the lack of struggle and their peaceful expressions. The weakness in this theory is the lack of any evidence connecting the men to drug experiments or underground pharmaceutical research. Brazil, in 1966, had limited recreational drug culture, making this scenario less likely. Some investigators believe the men were involved in a religious or occult ceremony. The lead masks might have ritual significance, and their deaths could have been either accidental poisoning during a ceremony or deliberate suicide as part of extreme religious beliefs. The positioning of the bodies, the formal clothing, and the apparent planning all suggest ritual behavior. The note's language about capsules and signals could refer to spiritual rather than extraterrestrial phenomena. This theory is supported by the men's recent behavioral changes and secretive planning, but there's no evidence either man was involved in occult practices or extreme religious groups. The most sinister theory proposes that the men were murdered after becoming involved in blackmail or illegal activities. The extra money they carried might have been payment for their silence, and their deaths could have been staged to look mysterious and deflect investigation from the real killers. This theory explains the precise positioning of the bodies and the theatrical elements like the lead masks. details designed to create confusion and focus attention on bizarre rather than criminal explanations. However, investigators found no evidence of the men being involved in illegal activities or having enemies who might want them dead. 57 years later, the lead masks case remains one of Brazil's most perplexing, unsolved mysteries. The case file sits in Niterói police archives, officially classified as death by undetermined causes. No new evidence has emerged in decades. No witnesses have come forward with additional information. The families of Manuel Pereira da Cruz and Miguel José Viana have never received closure. Their deaths left behind widows, children, and questions that span generations. What began as a simple business trip became a mystery that has inspired books, documentaries, and countless theories, but no answers. Modern investigators who have reviewed the case files note how many critical opportunities were lost in those first crucial days. The delayed toxicology tests, the lack of thorough crime scene processing, the failure to follow up on witness reports of strange lights, any of these might have provided the key to understanding what happened on Vintém Hill. Today, Vintém Hill looks much the same as it did in 1966. Visitors occasionally make the climb, drawn by the mystery, searching the clearing where two men died for reasons no one can explain. Local residents still report strange lights in the sky from time to time, though whether these have any connection to the events of August 1966 remains pure speculation. The single most haunting question remains unanswered. What did Manuel and Miguel believe would happen on that hillside that was worth dying for? If you know something about this case, if you have information about Manuel Pereira da Cruz and Miguel José